So over the past few months, it's become more and more apparent that AEW is going to be unifying the international and the continental belt. If you ain't seen this coming, it's probably because you're living under a rock, and I hope that rock is not named Dwayne, because if you're living in his basement, I hope you are freed or at least fed well. Although if you're in his basement, you probably want to be fed well because you really want to live there. And I'm not going to lie to you, I wouldn't mind living in a mansion, so yeah. I'm kidding. I don't want to live in Dwayne's basement at all. It's like a really weird place, and I probably got to hear that dang song over and over again. And just...
It's about drive, it's about power, it's about drive, it's about power, it's about drive, it's about power, it's about drive, it's about power. We say
that. Yeah, no, that sounds horrible. But anyways, AEW International and Continental belts are likely going to get unified. Is this a good decision? Who should win the belt? Let's go ahead and talk about all this. Before we do that, if you haven't already, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons for more. Okay, so before we even dive into the issue of who the heck wins the belt, the biggest issue here is, what do you call the belt? Two names are already taken off the board: Intercontinental and Universal. I would love Universal, but I feel like if you have the Universal belt, the issue there becomes not only WWE, but your main belt is called the AEW World Championship. Universe is bigger than the World. Wouldn't that mean that this unified belt is bigger than your top belts? So that could get a bit confusing there, unless you want to have both of these belts be like your top two belts and then have like the TNT Championship be your mid-card belt, which I'm not mad at, by the way, but then you only have one mid-card belt. Maybe you don't need two mid-card belts, though. Maybe that's where I'm looking at it, or maybe that's where I'm not looking at it from. Maybe you really just need two top belts and one mid-card belt. I think if they want to go in that direction, I'm actually not mad at it, to be honest. But you can't call it the Intercontinental belt for obvious reasons, and you don't want to call it the IC belt because then it's like the AEW International Continental Championship. It's just that's doing way too much. Also, IC is very synonymous with WWE as well, so it kind of just goes into that whole thing. You don't really want to do that. And then, like I said, the other issue with the Universal belt is that Cody Rhodes is still called the Undisputed Champion, but on the website, it actually does say that he's not only the WWE Champion, but also the Universal Champion as well. So that belt is still actually in WWE. I think trademarks could start getting involved in all that. It's doing way too much, okay? Now, here's the issue. I don't have a name. I don't know what you call the belt, okay? I wrote down belts. I wrote down Unified Championship. I wrote down Grand Continental Championship. I wrote down AEW World Openweight Championship. All these names are stupid, all right? Every single last one of them. So if y'all got a name, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. Maybe it'll help AEW out. That's probably why they've actually been holding off on this for so long, because they ain't got a name for this dang belt. Because this has been going on ever since Will Ospreay was holding the international belt, and we've seen Takeshita win at him because he wanted to get that belt. But he also had a run-in with Okada as well. And then we thought that Takeshita was going to be the guy to unify the belt, but that never came around. I assume it's because, though, they don't know what to call the belt. So they're like, let's not rush it. Let's take our time with it. We had Takeshita there. If we want to do Takeshita versus Okada later on, we still can. But now we're throwing Kenny Omega into this whole entire thing, which, at World's End, we did see that Kenny Omega got in Okada's face, but he was also the one to give him the belt. Obviously, they got a whole lot of history, so maybe Kenny goes after Okada sometime down the line, because he is going at Takeshita right now. I do believe that he's going to get that international belt from Takeshita, and then he's probably going to face Okada at All In, which I do believe that's where the unification is going to happen. No matter who holds the belts, whether it's Kenny holding the international or Takeshita holding the international and Okada holding the Continental, or somebody else gets it, I do believe that unification happens at All In. But if it is going to happen at All In, though, which it isn't that far down the line, it's only a few more months away, I do believe Okada is going to be holding that Continental belt until All In. I don't really see anybody that he could drop it to. Buddy Matthews, potentially, but if you're telling me that we're going to get either Buddy Matthews versus Kenny Omega or Takeshita, or we're going to get Okada versus Kenny Omega or Takeshita, no offense to Buddy Matthews, but I want to see Okada versus one of those two dudes. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I think there's even a scenario where we can get all three dudes in the same match, because Takeshita could lose the belt to one Kenny Omega, but he has a rematch clause that he could instate. Obviously, though, he shouldn't instate it too soon, because I believe that Kenny Omega is going to defeat Takeshita at One Revolution. There, which is in March, we could have Takeshita take some time off and then come back when Kenny Omega and Okada start, really going at each other and basically setting up that match for All In. Here comes Takeshita to say, I want my belt back, and then Tony Khan's just going to throw all three of them into the match where winner takes all gold. The only issue I could see with this, though, is if you have Takeshita defeat Okada and Kenny Omega, You're basically telling us that Konosuke Takeshita is the future of AEW, or at least one of those future pillars, and I don't know if he fits into there right now, at least, because it's so stacked up with guys. You have Jay White, you have Swerve Strickland, you have Will Ospreay, Darby Allin's going to get that belt at some point. You still got MJF, who is younger than Takeshita. I don't know if Takeshita's able to find his way in there within the next year or two, and I don't think any of these guys are going to lose the belt like within 2-3 months. I think the only guy that could actually happen to is Darby Allin. He would be fine. Jay White, though, fans have been waiting for years for this guy to get the belt, and his feud with MJF was such an amazing feud that's the reason why a lot of people want to see the belt get put on to Jay White, and he needs to hold it for a long time. And I do hope that when he gets the belt, Bullet Club Gold is revived, because they were absolutely phenomenal in 2023, that was. But with the other guys, though, like a Will, like a Swerve, like a MJF, I feel like they need to hold the belt for at least 6 to 8 months. Swerve might even need to hold it for like a good year or two, because his first run was only 6 months long, and it was a really dang good run, and we've seen what it did for AEW. You put the belt back on this guy and you give him an actual like an actual year-long, year-and-a-half-long run, that's going to probably do even better for what it did for AEW than what it already did the first time. So I don't know if Takeshita is going to be able to sneak his way into there within the next 2 years, maybe the next 3 to 4 years. So maybe he holds this unified belt for like a good year, drops it to somebody, and then gets into that picture and then wins it like in, let's say, 2027, 2028 maybe. I could see that happening. But I think the more likely option, though, is Kenny Omega goes on to defeat Konosuke Takeshita at Revolution. Then we get Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada at All In, where one of these two guys is going to be dethroned and the other one for these unified belts. I think Kenny Omega is the guy to do it. But there's an issue with this. I'm going to talk about Okada first, though, because I think if Okada is the guy that unifies the belts, I'm a bit worried on, because AEW seems like they love Okada. It seems like they want to show off Okada, but they don't really show him off, though. He doesn't have many major storylines throughout this Continental run. He's barely on the show as is. Is he a guy that they're really, focused on going forward? I think right now he's 37 or 39, one of the two. So is he really a guy that they push within the next couple of years to be the face of AEW, or at least one of your pillars? I don't really know that, to be honest. I can't. Like right now, I can't say yes 100% that he is, because AEW hasn't shown me that. Yes, he was a part of the Elites, and I understand that was a really big faction earlier this past year. But was he the guy, or was he one of the guys in that group? And in my opinion, I think he was just one of the guys, not the guy. Speaking of the Elites, though, Kenny Omega also has an issue if he wins. Whoever defeats Kenny Omega has to be the future of AEW. It cannot be a Jon Moxley. It cannot be an MJF. It dang sure cannot be Christian or Cope. I don't want to see either one of them winning it, and it better not be Chris Jericho, because let me tell you right now, if it's Chris Jericho, hey, look at here, Tony. Hey, look here, Tony Khan. I'm going to come have a little conversation with you, and I'm going to take that belt from Chris Jericho. Personally, he won't ever get that dang belt back. I better not see that man in any more belts, and I cannot wait for him to lose the Ring of Honor Championship. Forgot he even still had it. But it has to be a guy that's the future, though. It needs to be somebody that you are putting all of your stock in, letting the fans know this is our guy, so you need to get behind them right now, because we're 100% behind them. Which, I do have a few names. Number 1, Adam Cole. I know. Injuries. Very injury prone. I 100% get that. But Adam Cole is probably one of the most over superstars in AEW right now, one of the best on the mic, and he's looked pretty good so far. He hasn't looked like he's going to get injured anytime soon. If he can stay healthy, that is a guy that you put one of your 2 top belts on. If we are, calling the global or whatever the unified belt's going to be called, one of the 2 top belts. This guy can be at the opening of a show. He could be at the mid part of a show, and give just absolutely phenomenal segments. And that's the kind of guy that you want to put a new belt on, so that, everybody actually wants to see it. Because if you put it on somebody that can't really speak, sure, they could put on a great match, but are they really going to be able to show off the belt that much? Are they going to be able to have interesting segments, interesting storylines? Probably not. Also, we could potentially revive the Undisputed Kingdom, which I still wish were called Undisputed Era, but I understand that WWE trademarks and all that stuff. I hate trademarks sometimes, man. Oh, my goodness. But we could revive them. And they got a lot of guys in there that are pretty dang talented, that could be tag teams, that could be TNT championships, and then you just put a bunch of gold on the Undisputed Kingdom and show that, you know, this is a group that is something we're invested in, something that we want to revive, because we know that wrestling fans absolutely love the Undisputed Era, and we want to see these guys back on top again. And let me tell you right now, I need to see me some Adam Cole with this unified belt, or just with a top belt in general, because he is that dang talented of a guy. He's someone that was never used properly by the main roster of WWE. When he was in NXT, phenomenal, 5-star match after 5-star match, and in AEW, he's been pretty dang good so far as well. I just want to see, you know, this guy actually get his shot, because maybe I have too much investment in Adam Cole, but I think that this guy is a star, face of the company kind of wrestler. Speaking of a face of the company kind of wrestler, Swerve Strickland. I know it sounds odd to say because he just won the AEW World Championship. Does he need to go down, I guess, to the mid-card spot? But if we're calling this unified belt basically 1-1A with the AEW World Championship, then I think it's perfectly fine to have him go down there. Plus, plenty of top guys have gone down there. One of John Cena's best runs, actually, in my opinion, his best championship run is the United States title run, where he had the U.S. Open every dang week, and that was his best run, in my opinion. Them World Heavyweight Champions and WWE Champions, they was cool, but they was not better than that run. So Swerve, I feel like, wouldn't be so bad right here, especially if he's going on from Kenny Omega, which we know Kenny versus Swerve is going to cook. That is going to be one of the best feuds in AEW history. It's going to be one of the best matches in wrestling history. And he is a guy that, like I said earlier, we've seen what Swerve did with the AEW World Title. He put AEW much further on the map. If you put this belt onto him, he's gonna do just that once again, because everybody loves Swerve. Even when he's not competing for the AEW World Championship right now, and he's going against someone like Ricochet, who a lot of people didn't have faith in. And heck, in my opinion, I would not have believed that a Swerve Ricochet feud would have been good, but it's been absolutely phenomenal. I also do want to give some credit to Ricochet, because he's actually been cooking on the mic as of recent, and maybe the heel role is where he needed to be to actually do some good on the mic. But I believe putting this belt on Swerve is just going to do more and more for AEW than they probably ever could have even imagined. Speaking of imagine, this probably only happens in imaginations, but I low-key want to see this. Commander, give him the belt, man. He's only 26. He's so dang phenomenal in the ring, and I know I said somebody that's great in the ring but not great on the mic probably can't be the guy, you know, to get past the torch to by Kenny Omega. But you know what, man? Let's just try it. Let's try it, man. Let's just see what happens. If it doesn't work, take the belt off him and put it on somebody else real quick, and boom, I think the Global Championship, or whatever it's called, would still be good, especially if you put it on somebody that's like a top guy, or somebody that's just on the rise to be a top guy. And I really believe that Commander can be on the rise to be a top guy if you give him more screen time. I feel like he could also bring in a very large audience, specifically a very large Hispanic audience, like what Ray and Eddie did for WWE. I think he could do that for AEW as well. And everybody loves Commander, man. Everybody loves seeing this guy wrestle. Even when he loses, we know he's going to lose a lot of times, and I hate seeing it because, like I said, he is such a phenomenal wrestler. He had an amazing match on Collision against Okada. He's so dang good. He could wrestle anybody. Big guys, slow guys, fast guys, athletic guys, or just more like the conventional wrestling, or I guess mat-to-mat wrestling kind of guys. I don't know what you call them. The technicians. He's just so dang good, man. And I would love to see him be able to get his shot. Like I said, he's only 26 years old. He has so much room to go. He could easily get his English much, much better over the next few years. And I think maybe by like a 2020, let's say 6, maybe his English gets good enough like Takeshita's to where he's able to speak on the mic pretty well. And then you put a manager with him for the time being. Maybe if you don't lose Alex, who was with Ray and Penta, maybe you could put Alex with him. Maybe you can book Commander as a heel. If you do lose Alex, though, you can go find somebody else. And I want to see Commander get a shot, man, because he's so dang good. Now, with all that said, I understand that unifying these belts, you lose a title in that mid-card scene, but right now we have 3 of them, and like I said with Okada, he barely gets any screen time as is. Daniel Garcia is not really doing much with that belt anymore, and Takeshi's the only one in a real big storyline right now. Maybe if you only have 2 of them, it's a lot easier to do storylines with. Maybe if we have only the TNT title be the mid-card title, then it's even much easier to do storylines with. Obviously, that does make the top spot a little shaky, but we see right now there's so many storylines going on that one of these guys, like whether it's a Swerve, whether it's a Will, whether it's a Kenny, a Takeshita, a Kyle, etc., 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 one of these guys could have this unified belt on them, and it could be an even bigger storyline because now there's more on the line with this unified belt. And also, I don't think that this ruins the mid-card spot by any means. I think it actually goes in line with Jon Moxley's goals, which kind of helps out the Death Riders, who I have said many times aren't really looking so hot right now. But if you get rid of a mid-card title, actually 2 mid-card titles, put that one to the top spot, now you're forcing a lot of your mid-carders to either go just for this TNT belt or start, putting in a lot more work to get up to that top spot. And because of Jon Moxley, we've seen right now a lot of these mid-carders are doing just that. Someone like Powerhouse Hobbs has really stepped up over the past few weeks. Someone like even Big Bill is doing a lot more work and really making a name for himself. I see someone like Brian Keith getting in there too. Commander, someone that's also been showing off his stuff as well. So there's a lot of guys in that mid-card spot that if they were just kind of a bit more pressured to, perform much better and really be a top guy, I think maybe they don't get to that top guy spot. Maybe they don't get the AEW World Championship or the Unified Championship, but they can get to that TNT title and really show off their stuff. I think that's best for AEW in my opinion, and it whittles out anyone who's just kind of coming to collect a check. If you're gonna come, if you're gonna come collect a check, you're gonna be a jobber or you're gonna get the heck out. One of the two, or you're probably going to go down to Ring of Honor, which I hate that Ring of Honor has basically become a developmental brand, even though it's not really a developmental brand. It's kind of similar to how TNA is with WWE right now. But we're all just calling it a developmental brand because Athena's there, and we just want to see Athena on a dang show. And AEW, I'm really, really tired of y'all posting Athena all the dang time, but y'all don't ever have Athena on the dang roster. But I got to see Mark Briscoe there, man. But yeah, no, y'all go ahead and let me know down below. How do y'all feel about the AEW International and Continental belts being unified? Do you want to see that? Who are the 3 guys, whether it's Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, or Konosuke Takeshita, do you want to see win? Who do you think else could potentially get into this picture? Y'all go ahead and let me know down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you do hit that like and subscribe button for more. Also share this with other AEW fans as well, just fans of wrestling in general.